What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Barking Browns Show. I'm Jacob. I am solo today as we talk about Cleveland Browns Mock Draft 1.0 for the YouTube channel. I've written up a ton of them over at Browns Wire, so if you want to go check them out, you can check those out. I posted one just in the past week, but we're going to dive into it. Thank you so much for joining us here on the YouTube. If you're on the YouTube, please smash that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Helps us out a ton in the algorithm. If you're on Apple Podcasts, consider reviewing us. Maybe doing the same on Spotify so we can continue to grow. We've got a Browns mock draft, no trade edition. I made a big point for that for me today, it being no trade edition. Just simply put, it becomes a little bit more difficult sometimes with some of the trades and some things like that. So we're going to dive right on into it. Browns will be on the clock right away, second round, pick 54, their first on the board. In this class, and linebacker makes a ton of sense. And so Junior Colson, the linebacker from Michigan, makes a ton of sense for me. In my most recent Browns mock draft on Browns Wire, I wrote this up as well with Junior Colson going to the Browns. I know they don't tend to favor a lot of linebackers early. You know, JOK was kind of an exception to the rule with that. But I think Junior Colson can be that kind of pairing that makes a ton of sense for the Browns. I think he's a very twitched up player, really good athlete, explosive when he figures out what's happening in front of him, very instinctual, can roam sideline to sideline. I look at him as a little bit better of a tackler than I think. Sorry, got sidetracked on there. I just think he's a little bit better of a tackler than like a guy like Anthony Walker, and maybe a little bit better when it comes to wrapping up in his fundamentals than even JOK is. But great instinctual player, understands what's going on in front of him, really quick feet, very twitched up, great athlete, explosive. And I think he's a pretty good coverage guy. Like, this is a guy that he's not on the level of athlete JOK is. He's a very good athlete, but he's not quite there. But when you talk about doing the dirty work, when you talk about being a tackling machine and making the plays you need to make on that second level, that's what you're getting with Junior Colson. I think he has great play strength. Like I said, his change of direction, his footwork makes him great in coverage, really covers tight ends and running backs out of the backfield as well as anybody in this class. He can be a little inconsistent getting off of blocks when people do get hands on him. Kind of his little stack and shed is a little bit inconsistent. That's some technique things that can be fixed with Junior Colson, but he's got some of that rare physical athletic gifts that you're looking for in a guy, especially in the second round. He comes in, and if he gets developed in the way that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah gets developed, this is a Mike linebacker who I think makes an impact immediately, crashing down hard, but he can become a really, really nice 3-down player. He's a 3-down player right now, but you may use him in more more coverage situations early, or obvious rundowns, things like that. I just think that you may limit some of his reps here early because of the fundamental things he needs to work on in traffic. But overall, I think he's a fantastic prospect. I would have absolutely no qualms with the Browns going after Junior Colson. Just to recap: twitched up, quick trigger, explosive, great athlete, foot quick, really quick feet, really good in coverage. He checks almost all the boxes you need. Sometimes he can make he does have some of that JOK in him. I think he's a better tackler than JOK, but some things you can see that he does that reminds you of JOK is kind of like getting so quick to a spot that he kind of like overruns it and misses the tackle. You're going to see some of that too, but I think you can develop Colson into just an absolutely great complement with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And so that's my pick at pick 54. We move on to the next pick here. Pick, what is this, 85, I believe is what it is. Yes, third round pick 85. We got Patrick Paul, the left tackle from Houston. It's time for the Browns to add some better depth at tackle. I know they get Odinabo from Minnesota previously with the Bengals. He's got some right guard, some right tackle experience. I don't know what they think about James Hudson. I think they're getting close to kind of giving up on that experiment with James Hudson. I'm not 100%, but we'll see what happens there. So go get some depth in a potential future starter at left side on the left side in case Jed Wills doesn't pan out. I think they're very high on Jedrick Wills, whether you and I are or not. I think they're still very high on Jedrick Wills. They're very much looking forward to the way he plays this year after playing really well after the bye week last year leading up to his injury. I thought he was playing as good as he had since his rookie year when he was pretty good for the Browns. Patrick Paul is a monster at left tackle, kind of sticking with the theme that they did last year with DeJuan Jones. He's 6'7", 331 pounds. He's just got rare size and strength that you just can't always teach. He's got that elite size and length, really long arms. Arms come in at 36.25-inch arms. Mix that with, the 6'7", solid, steady base in his lower half. Has more than 35 starts in college. He has a ton of experience, and like I said, he's got those rare physical gifts, and it makes him just an excellent pass blocker in kind of the same way that DeJuan Jones is an excellent pass blocker. You are not going to get into Patrick Paul's chest and go through him to the quarterback. It's not going to happen. I think he often relies a little bit too much on his strength and size. I don't love his hand placement in the run game. He can move people, but I think kind of those getting up under and playing with great leverage, he struggles at time at 6'7". I understand that. We saw some of those issues with DeJuan Jones as a rookie and stuff. I just think that he has to, him moving in space as a runner or as a run blocker, trying to pull or climb to the second level, there's a lot of footwork and mechanic stuffs that they need to kind of work through. Sometimes it seems like he's unable to, it's almost like he's not used to playing with as big as he is. Like, I don't think he's a bad athlete on any stretch of the imagination, but his footwork, it's all technical stuff with Patrick Paul. I don't have issues with that length, the athlete. I know some people don't think he's a great athlete. He's not an upper echelon athlete, but I still think he can get the job done. He's got to work on his footwork, his hand placement, and playing with leverage, because just right now, I don't know that he's ready to start. He's got a ton of experience, so he knows what he's doing if you have to throw him in there. But I think you really want to get in there with the technical aspects of things and really work with him on how to use the gifts that he has. That's the biggest thing for me. But, when you're in the third round, that's when you start taking some of these guys that have things you can't teach and not necessarily worrying about them needing to play right away. The Browns are in that spot in a sense that, hey, they're in a good spot where they really have to draft for a specific position, and especially not draft a specific position that needs to play right away. So yeah, they should get a tackle or a guard or something for the future of the offensive line as those guys kind of get contracts coming up and some of them getting older and things along that line. But they don't have to worry about being like, Patrick Paul, you're a left tackle. Patrick Paul, you're a right guard, if he was a guard or whatever it might be. No, everything's set on that line, and that's exactly the position, position that you want to put Patrick Paul in. You don't want to have to play him right away. So if you bring him in, you're allowed him to sit, develop, and work on the technical things. He's got a lot of the physical traits that you like, and I think it works out really well for him. All right, moving on to, I think we're in the 5th round now. Yeah, we're going to go 5th round. We're going to get a little wide receiver help. Let's talk about Taj Washington, the wide receiver from USC. First thing that's going to kind of jump out when you look at Taj is you're going to say, yeah, he's undersized, 5'10", 174 pounds, 8 3/8-inch hands, 29-inch arms. That's what's going to – short arms, short catch radius, smaller guy that struggles to beat man coverage, press man coverage, not regular man coverage. He's going to be able to do that. But, man, his instincts and an IQ as a route runner and as a player overall are fantastic. And the things that kind of draw Taj Washington to me for the Browns is what he does on the off-scripted plays from the quarterback. Obviously, he goes to USC. He plays with one of the best off-script college quarterbacks we've seen in a while in Caleb Williams, the presumptive number 1 pick. So he's used to that. He understands. He keeps his eye on his quarterback. If his quarterback's scrambling, looking for help, he's going to find a way back to the quarterback. He's going to find a way to get open. He's going to find ways to manipulate the coverage as the coverage starts to break down because of, Caleb Williams running around. He's like, oh, wait, they're starting to pull down thinking he's going to run. If I go back out and in and things like this, I can create a really nice target for Caleb. And he does that routinely. And I really like that because that's what you have in Deshaun Watson. That is what the Browns wide receiver core, I think early last year, and when Watson was still there, first got here in 2022, that they were trying to kind of figure out was what to do in these off script plays. They weren't used to a quarterback that would hold on to the ball for 4 or 5 seconds sometimes. Well, Taj Washington is, and he understands how to manipulate coverage and defenses when those plays happen, when they break down, and that's where he gets a lot of his success out of the slot. You just happen to see him just kind of make these off-script plays and these big plays when he gets big yardage. A lot of times it's because Caleb Williams extends the play, and he knows that Caleb Williams is going to do that, and he knows what to do when he does that. That brings a lot to the Browns. He's a really reliable hands guy, man. He's not going to drop many passes. If you hit Taj Washington in the hands, he's going to haul it in, and he's going to get what he can get after the catch. Routinely. I wanted to bring up his after the catch stats because a lot of that is something that the Browns are really looking for is these guys that can get the yards after the catch. So 1 drop this year. He was targeted 74 times. Does most of his damage out of the slot. He had 341 slot snaps as compared to 30 out wide. Had a 66.7% contested catch rate, and at 5'10", that's pretty good. Here, looking at 8.6 yards after the catch. He's also a deep threat. He can stretch the field vertically. He had 13 catches on deep routes, which was 15th overall in the nation this year, with 596 yards on those 13 receptions. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Internet issues. Average depth of target was 10.7 yards down the field, 8 contested catches. 50 of his catches came out of the slot this year, 18 yards per reception, 8 touchdowns. So you start looking on day 3 for some of these guys, especially out of the slot that can kind of make plays after the catch. And Taj Washington just makes a ton of sense for me from UFC in the 5th round. I'm moving on to the 6th round. Let's get a little bit of depth at safety. Omar Brown, the safety from Nebraska. Omar Brown's an interesting player. Comes in. Let me get you his measurables. Where are we doing here? What's really funny is when you get yourself set up for a podcast like this, you're like, yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna do this podcast, and then you get all this stuff prepared, and then you accidentally exit out of a bunch of it. So, right. I'm around 6'1", 200 pounds, coming out of Nebraska. This guy, he plays all over the field, but they played him mostly this year, 434 snaps out of the slot. The Browns have Greg Newsome. They have Cam Mitchell, but neither one of them are these coming into the NFL were natural slot wide receiver or corners. And I really like Omar Brown's physicality, man. He will get up in your face, and he will play physical with you all day long. He'll make run stops, pretty good in run defense, 84 coverage grade last year. The thing that you worry about is the 16% missed tackles, 11 missed tackles for him this year. Wasn't really a problem for him last year. Only had 1 last year and 5 the year before. But it was sloppy this year when it came to tackling. And when you're a guy in the slot, you've got to make plays in the run game, especially. You got to be able to be physical, and he can do all those physical things. He can mug guys, he can press guys. He's really good in coverage, but you just kind of don't like seeing double-digit missed tackles out of a guy that's playing that close to the line of scrimmage. He only had 60 deep snaps last year. 434 of his snaps were in the slot, as I told you earlier, and 147 in the box. So I just like him a ton, getting more guys in the slot, especially because you don't know what the future of Greg Newsome is, because here coming soon, they're going to have to make a decision on extending Newsome and extending Martin Emerson, who's only a year behind him in terms of coming off his rookie deal. And the Browns have the luxury of a 5th-year option on Greg Newsome, but they don't on Martin Emerson. So if they end up, I would rather keep Emerson over Newsome if it were to come to that. And a guy that can really help you is Nebraska safety Omar Brown, what he can do in the slot, and where he can go from, just kind of, I don't know, versatility is probably the best word. Has very violent hands, can throw wide receivers off of him in the run game. And that's why you want to see that missed tackle and tackle rate go down, because like he gets to where he needs to be to make run stops, just not totally consistent, but a tough, physical, scrappy guy. I like him a ton in Jim Schwartz's scheme. It could be the future potentially for you in the slot. I don't really know. I mean, that's where he needs to be, is in the slot. So it could be your future slot guy, depth guy in that spot as well. So Omar Brown from Nebraska. Our final pick, we're going to the 7th round. We're adding a tight end. Let's get Trey Knox, the tight end from South Carolina. I like Trey Knox quite a bit. Really good athlete, 6'3", 240 pounds, 34.25-inch arms, 9.375-inch hands, very versatile, really good athlete, really fantastic body control and reliable hands. He played receiver before adding a little bit of size and going into the tight end. So he was moved all over the place as a tight end, was better as a tight end than a wide receiver at 240 pounds. It makes a lot of sense. He's not a great route runner, but you've got Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper on the roster. You've got, and even Elijah Moore, some really good route runners, and David Njoku that could really groom him. And that's where he's got to work on it, kind of creating separation as a route runner. But like you can line him up all over the line of scrimmage, which is something the Browns have shown a lot of, wanting a lot of that over their last couple of years, making sure that guys can play here and there and everywhere. And that's kind of what you get from Trey Knox. Like I said, just the versatility, solid hands, solid body control, pretty good athlete. He originally was at Arkansas for 4 years before coming to South Carolina, played receiver before transitioning to tight end about halfway through his career. So he's got that above average athlete, good speed. He just goes out there and gets it done. He doesn't have that elite 4.4 or anything crazy speed like that. But he lacks polish, lacks the technical things, needs to work on his hand placement as a blocker, but he's got the size and the athleticism to turn into a 3-down line tight end. And I think he learned a lot from the Browns and what they got going on at tight end. So there you go, guys. That is Mock Draft 1.0 here on the YouTube channel. Plenty more of them to come. Please smash that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. And we will see you guys again live on Tuesday for another episode of the Bark and Brown Show. So thank you guys so much. The most valuable thing you can give somebody is some of your time. So thank you for spending some of your time with me. We'll see you guys again next time. As always, go Browns.